Evolution Security Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Brian here with Eric and Aaron. How you guys doing?
Man, I'm doing great, guys. Always good to see your all's faces.
Yeah, wonderful here. It's been a long day counting other people's money, but I am here ready to chill out, hang out with some of my best buddies.
Nice. Well, as always, we try to bring you something new and interesting, and we've got another great guest to bring you here in a little bit, Mr. John Daub of KR Training. Of course, we had his counterpart on in a few shows back, and they've got a book that they worked on together, and we're going to talk about all of that. But we'll get a little business out of the way real quick. We always love talking about Origin, and of course, just a couple shows ago had the founder of that company on, and I'm still loving my Don't Tread on Me rash guard today. I got to tell you, it means possibly more to me today than it did a week ago. But, the coolest part is that it's made in the U.S. and it's made right and it's made to last. I've gotten some other rash guards from some online outfits and they work fine and they just don't offer the same compression and they aren't the same quality. They stretch and they start to get loose and they also pill and tear easier. That rash guard, I put that on. I don't even need to use compression sleeves on my elbows when I lift. I mean, it's not the same amount of support as a compression sleeve. It's not a replacement. But the way that thing grips my muscles, it actually gives me a level of support that makes me feel more confident when I'm doing my workouts. So unfortunately, I don't get to roll yet. Still jealous of both of you, but
Sorry, brother.
Doing what I can. Doing what I can. And, if you want a rash guard like that, just go to originmain.com and enter the code EvoSec10 and get a discount for 10% off your order. So I ordered something from someone else today, and Eric's going to talk about that, but we're hoping to have all three of us to have some review on the new Khartoum 3. What do you got to say about that, Eric?
Yeah, I'm pumped about that big time. I'm anxiously awaiting my holster as well. Speaking of Tenacore holsters, just the other day, I've been in a new place. We're in North Carolina. Still haven't found a home yet. Certainly haven't found a range home yet. So I've been going around to several ranges here. And although I can't do the same level of drills at the two ranges I've been shooting at, I was doing a little bit of drawing from the holster, doing some bill drills, and this guy asked me, he's like, bro, that's an awesome draw. What holster are you running? And I said, funny you should ask. And I said, well, it's actually a Tenacore Velo 4. And I took the time to show it to him. And of course, shameless plug, I told him to use EvoSec at checkout for 10% off, and he said he's going to go check it out. So hopefully he jumps on there and grabs a holster. So that was kind of cool. Yes, we every chance I get, I'm sure you guys are the same. We're spreading the word, aren't we?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
What I dig, one of the cool features, maybe some of our listeners do not know this, but it's real important to me now, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to order my own Khartoum 3 recently, is Jeff puts in all of his holsters, he puts the optic cut. I mean, it's ready to go, don't have to ask for that extra, really cool. So when I got my optic and my new pistol, I just grabbed my Velo 4 and I'm ready to roll. So, yeah, cool gear. And I'm looking forward to that new holster, but the Velo 4, man, amazing appendix carry holster, but then that Khartoum is ready for both. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works with his amazing design work. You know it's going to kick ass.
Well, and Aaron, I can comment on that as well. You know, we all still compete, and IDPA doesn't allow us to use appendix carry.
That's true.
So I'm looking forward to using the Khartoum for IDPA. So, yeah, I'm sure that, you know, my JM Custom works great, but I'm looking forward to maybe some different advantages to the Khartoum for sure.
Well, what do you got over there, Aaron? Did somebody write in or make
one
some
of our
note?
listeners did us a favor and gave us a review and a rating. They gave us a 5-star review. A gentleman named John M. He says, "Awesome podcast. The guys do a great job on a variety of topics. Really enjoy the podcasts. Definitely worth the time to listen. I learn new stuff every time. Keep the good work up, guys." So, I mean, that's awesome, getting feedback from our listeners. And once again, we would really encourage you, and it really helps us out to go out on iTunes and give us a rating. We love those 5-star ratings. We are still 5-star rated, and we really would like not just the rating, but if you could give us some feedback in the review, that would be wonderful. If you would rather not go to iTunes and give us your feedback and would rather keep it to email, go ahead and email us at crew@evosec.org. That's crew@evosec.org. We also, of course, are on the big social media sites for now. Who knows how long they're going to allow us on there. We've been seeing some shenanigans on our accounts too, which is just crazy. But as long as we're out there, go check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And we are EvoSec USA on both of those platforms. And then regarding the podcast, just want to remind you, we are on all of the major platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, to name a few, and then we've got a few more coming on board soon. But if you want to avoid all those big tech apps, go ahead and go to our website, which is evosec.org. That's evosec.org. And there is a red link on our podcast page. You can go right there and find all of our shows.
Right on. Well, want to hop in there? Talk to Mr. John Daub?
Let's do it.
Sounds great.
Hey, we'd like to welcome John Daub of KR Training to the show. How you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. And we'll talk, more about this later, but you can find KR Training at krtraining.com. That's Kilo Romeo Training.com. And, we've had your partner on here on the show before, and we know a lot about you, but for our guests that may not be aware of who you are, what you do, give us a couple minutes breakdown of your history and how you got started in shooting and what you do now.
Sure. So again, my name is John Daub, and I also get around online as Soy, which is a Hotel Sierra Oscar India, but also sometimes Soy Sauce, just to kind of riff on obviously the term, and also the fact that I'm half Korean, so just kind of a fun little riff.
I thought you were just salty.
See, there you go. See, it works on so many levels, right?
It's great.
So anyways,
it's great.
Yeah. So I'm living in Bryan, Texas these days. I actually just moved out of Austin, lived there for about 25 years, and we kind of got tired of it. So decided to return back to Aggieland here because that's where my wife and I met about 25 years ago. I was here in grad school and she was an undergrad. And so we did that. We decided to come back here and we're just getting settled in and all that stuff. So it's good. And then, I've been working at KR Training there with Carl Wren. I'm senior, I think, assistant instructor or senior lead assistant instructor. I don't know, whatever my title is right there, but I do a lot with Carl. We wrote that book together, Strategies and Standards for Defensive Handgun Training. I've been working with Carl for about 12 years doing that. And just to get a little, like, I guess, resume of things, if people care about such things. Obviously, NRA instructor, Texas LTC instructor. Under Tom Givens, did a Rangemaster certified Master Instructor. For Science Institute Analyst, Masada U Group Deadly Force Instructor. I've earned a light pin from Gabe White. I'm technically a B class production USPSA shooter, but I did that classification years ago. I have no idea where I am now. And I've trained, of course, with folks like Tom Givens, Carl Wren, Masada Ayub, Chuck Haggard, Gabe White, Lee Weems, Tiffany Johnson, Akil Kader, John Murphy, Caleb Causey, Hawk Hockheim, Spencer Keeper, Cecil Birch, Kathy Jackson, Paul Howe, William April, Claude Werner, Southmark, John Johnston, Melody Lauer, a good host of characters and people to do that. So we just do this. We have a good time with this. And and the other thing I should just slightly mention is this is just like what I do in one part of my life. The other part of my life that predominantly pays the bills is I'm a software developer. I write iOS software. I'm a principal engineer with a consultancy out of Atlanta, Georgia. And that's what I do most of my time. But then I do this for fun, I guess. This is my get rich slow scheme. So
that's what we're up to right now too.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's a little about me, and kind of to frame where I am and who I am and what I've been doing and all that. So
excellent, John. So I would say, man, that's an awesome resume. We've not had the pleasure of meeting just yet, but we've been interfacing online for quite some time, and I've always been impressed with your dedication to your training, both as it relates to shooting and your fitness training, your philosophy too. And frankly, I wanted to bring out that strategies and standards for defensive handgun training is, if I could put a percentage on it, it's probably about 33 to 45% of a reason why EvoSec is a thing. And
that's awesome.
The reason being is that you mentioned South Narc, and I'd like to ask you a follow-up question about your training with Craig here in a second. But essentially, I had ran a training group for about 3 years, teaching the ECQC curriculum. And I had been, I've been a martial arts instructor for many, many years. And I got interested in helping newer shooters out and started doing that. But when I read your guys' book, it made me realize that 1% of individuals that are the only ones that are really training. And Carl said on AWS's podcast that, hey, if you have something to offer new shooters or shooters in general and you're not doing it, you need to step up. And that spoke to me, and that's honestly why this a huge portion of the reason this was birthed. So I know I went into that long description there. I apologize. I'm kind of cutting you off.
That's all right. No, please.
But I wanted
it's
to
good
thank
to hear
you.
the background. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for. I've been very humbled and appreciative of the kind words, and thank you very much for it. And I think it's actually great that you guys have stepped up, because I forget exactly where the statistic on it, but Claude Werner. And for those listening who don't know who Claude Werner is, you have homework now to go find out who Claude Werner is. Mm-hmm. But Claude did something some years ago, crunching numbers at looking at basic, simple things of, like, if we have this many people who own firearms, and we want to give them even just the basic modicum of training, just, this end goes this way and that end goes that way, and just how to basically make things go. And he looked at just very simple numbers of, like, and this is how many hours it takes to even just do a very basic intro course. This is how many people you can service, et cetera, et cetera. And the bottom line is that, just crunching the numbers, we don't have enough people. And to try to get enough people to just even do just very basic instruction levels, we need a large groundswell of people to be willing to step up to do it. So that you guys are willing to step up and to start doing this, to try to help people and bring that service to the general public is very commendable. So thank you for doing that as well.
Well, thanks a lot, John. And again, what you guys put out there, information in that book is crucial. And again, we also knew that through both our lives as musicians, Aaron and I, and Brian's background in the firearms industry, we also knew that part of our contribution is what we're doing here, which is providing information, but more importantly, providing condensed information and recommendations, education of where people really need to focus. We're just not having anybody on this show. We're not having just any subject on this show. We're trying to influence people in what we believe is the best direction.
You sure know how to flatter a guy.
It's the truth. It absolutely is the truth. And so thank you for that information you guys put out there. I mean, if people will just grab a few books, and I won't enumerate them currently right now, but your guys' book, if they apply the knowledge and apply the drills, now they're going to need instruction. But if they focus on achieving a requisite level of capabilities with the drills that you guys prescribe at the end of the book, is just going to make dividends for folks.
Well, see, that's a thing that's very, very near and dear to my heart, is that notion of minimum competency. What is that minimum that people should really train to achieve some level of competency and some level of success, capability, confidence in being able to handle themselves in what that situation is. And so that was my large because I'd spent a bunch of time studying that, looking into that, researching it, trying to come up with an answer. And that was, that's like the second part of the book. That's what that's all about. And that's my, majority contribution in the book. And so, and it's a very fun question and a very interesting question, because I still don't know really. I mean, I can give guidelines, and I've given guidelines in the writings, but as for truly still, what is that answer? It's really still a hard one to come up with, because a lot of it there's so many variables, there's so many dependencies. I even saw something the other day. Somebody was talking about the FBI qual. And, I know I broke the cardinal rule of the internet. Don't read the comments. And I read the comments, and somebody was very, very poo-pooing the FBI qual, like, oh, that's easy. And, like, if you can't shoot that, basically you're a moron, kind of an approach to it. And while I sat there on the one hand, I said, okay, look, I understand where you're coming from, that you find this to be a very easy standard. And I see what you express as limitations on it, because it's very square range and all that kind of stuff. And that's fair assessment. But I also look at certain things, like I remember there was somebody I knew, she was elderly. She was a realtor. And you can talk, if you've been someone who's in the realty game long enough, you can be with all kinds of strange people going into strange situations, and there's a vulnerability that's there. And so to try to sit there and want to do something like, well, no, she's never going to take ECQC. That's just not in the cards for her at her stage of life, where she is with arthritis and all this stuff. But why should, if she can't shoot the FBI qual and pass it, does that mean somehow she is incapable or inadequate? Especially when we talk about the dirty little secret of the training industry. And this goes back to another Claude Werner thing, where Claude's looked at so many incidences of, private citizens defending themselves. And the dirty little secret is, usually as long as all you have is a gun and at least a willingness to use it, that's often really all that's necessary. All this other, like, well, you need to have, 1 second, A zone hit at 7 yard, draw from concealment, it's like, is that really what's truly necessary or not? And there's so many variables that come into this. So all this to say, to going back to what you're saying, it's like, yes, this is all interesting standard. This is all good information. And I do hope through stuff that we've written about and that we're talking about and discussing, people might be at least willing to start thinking about this and start understanding how it can fit into and how they themselves may want to at least assess themselves and try to work towards improvement, whatever that improvement is.
Well, hey, John, Aaron here, and I did want to say something real quick that you were just talking about.
Sure.
And I love it. It's excellent that you put a fine point on this, is that dirty little secret that just being prepared with that firearm and the willingness to fight is often all that is needed. And I literally was thinking about it maybe today. It's like, do we talk about that much, or should we hold that to ourselves, because we want to make sure that people are training, but then at the same time, you don't want to scare them into not doing what they can because you want to make them feel bad because they can't get a 2.2 draw to first shot at 7 yards.
Right.
So,
because you don't want to set a bar so high that they feel, geez, that's what I got to shoot like Rob Leatham to even just basically, walk on the street safely. That sets a bar so people are like, forget it, I can't do that, and they'll never start. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a good thing to do either. So you have to find that way to, help get people get started and help them understand. Because usually it's just like, and this even touches back to something I think that Eric, just mentioned in the beginning, is when we start talking about training and all this stuff, you got to give some people a place to start. You got to let them have wins. You got to let them have that ability to get started, to start saying, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, this is fun. I want to keep doing this. And as long as they can find, and usually my take is, as long as you're starting to be better today than you were yesterday, great. That's the step in the right direction. That's what starts to help get people there. And they hopefully don't hit that, because, I mean, when it comes to this notion of of that dirty little secret, I don't think that anybody would, say it's like, oh, less education is better, right? Less knowledge is better. The more that we can actually have as knowledge, the more that we can be trained, the more we can do, that's good. But I don't want to set a bar so high for people in the beginning they get so intimidated they walk away from it and they say, I'll never start. So it's always tough to find that balance.
Well, and I just like to look at it like, okay, here are some base skill sets. It's actually, just a nice standard of being able to present your pistol and get a first shot off in about 2 seconds, right? That's just a roundabout standard that almost anyone can do. And then you go on to the outliers and start picking those off. And you may find out that you enjoy learning, and you may get into where you cover a lot of outliers from that point. But that's just the way I like to look at it, and some way I've been presenting it to people I'm trying to encourage to train. So I just loved it that you brought that up. So thanks.
I like that. That's a good approach.
I'd like to just second what you're saying there, because Eric and I had the opportunity. We probably ran 15 or 20 people through, a basic firearms, pistol. Actually, we called it a basic pistol marksmanship course is what we called it, because we didn't really have a base curriculum, because we kind of go more towards combatives and that kind of stuff. And we realized that a lot of friends and family and a lot of friends of friends really had just recently bought pistols because of what's going on, and they had no skills whatsoever. And we didn't even use holsters in those classes because we were just starting with green people. And we gave them attainable goals, and we gave them functional tools. And at the end, and we're doing this at 5 yards. This is no crazy anything.
Absolutely.
And we just had them all shoot 10 rounds into a B8 bull and as accurate as they could. And it was amazing how much that basically strengthened their belief in what they could do.
That's a really excellent thing to bring up. Is people tend to rise to the level of expectation that you set for them. But it's especially interesting, especially with beginners, when they don't know what that level is supposed to be. Because we'll do a similar thing, like in KR training, like in our basic pistol 1 and 2 class, and I especially love this in the basic 2 class. We'll sit there and we'll have them shoot things like they start off shooting a 4-inch circle. They don't know one way or the other whether that's what that standard means, a 4-inch circle at 5 yards. And then maybe when we start putting them on a timer, they'll be an IDPA target and they'll be in that down zero circle, an 8-inch circle there. And they think that they're like sitting there and they're shooting this in time and they're doing this, and they think that they're doing terrible because they have this notion from, TV or movies or whatever, that they're just supposed to all put it all into one ragged hole right in the middle of everything. Right. But when they're sitting there shooting like that and they think that they're doing a terrible job, And then we sit there and we take them inside afterwards and we're like, so see what you guys are shooting. See this little 6-inch here, this kind of circle you guys are shooting, whatever, 4, 6, 8, whatever we had. And then we pick up a B-27 target. And we tell them, now you see, when you have to come shoot the LTC qual, this is the barn door that you're going to be shooting instead. And see this large 18 by 24 here? Yeah, that's the 5 points. And then we show them, we just hold them the small circle over this big circle. And then suddenly you see the light bulb in their head go off and go, oh my gosh. And then when you sit there and reinforce to them, you see here, we try to hold you to a higher standard. And look how you're able to rise to that. And then, boy, that just makes them suddenly even happier with their performance. And they're like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. That was cool. That was challenging. That was cool. And that was neat. So, yeah, to exactly what you're saying, Brian, that is a thing to do with people and to show them that success. And then that is just what further breeds it. And they're going to want to keep going, right?
No, very, very cool. Because it is. And you do, like you said, you see them light up when they realize that they've done better than they thought that they were doing, or that they've understood that they actually are doing well. That's I just love helping people to that point.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. Helping beginners is great stuff. So real quick, I got actually 2 questions, John, if we can. Sure. Mm-hmm. You mentioned ECQC earlier with Craig. Just a real quick discussion on it, because we, all of us are alum and multi-alum. You're an ECQC alum, correct?
You know what? The funny part is I'm actually not.
Oh, okay.
My experience with Craig was a long time ago. Craig and Tom Givens did a combined skills course. So it was both. It was kind of like an ECQC light, because since they were sharing time, you got most of the ECQC curriculum, but it wasn't dedicated ECQC. So it was that plus then doing some shooting work with Tom. And that was the thing that I had with Craig. And I tried to do some other classes with Craig, obviously taking the edge weapons and stuff like that, but it's either been schedule or money or something like that has just not worked out. So, and now I'm also feeling very much more older and more beat up and going, man, I've already earned my Billy Goat dot. So
there you go.
Do I need to do that again? Right.
Yeah.
Well,
we
John,
won't explain that. You know what we're talking about, or you don't.
Yeah. So, and it's the kind of thing where my wife still to this day continues to look at me and she says, and you pay for that. And I go, yes, I do. But anyways, but still, but Eric, to your question though about it.
Say that again, John. Goodness, my damn internet's screwing me up.
No, that's okay.
What was
that?
But
you were asking about ECQC.
Well, essentially, I was kind of bringing that up because of his Craig's pedagogy and effect on all of us. I mean, you honestly hit on that. You got exposed to a condensed version of his curriculum, and I just kind of wanted to ask you about that because he affects people so greatly, and how much he's affected us. I just wanted to kind of hit on that, and frankly, I think I keyed in on something you said. Man, we are all beat up. I think all of us are late 40s, early 50s, and we don't heal as quickly. And I'm a 7-time alum of ECQC, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to really be hitting that class directly myself, frankly.
Yeah.
So, but that said, one other question on the training side. You mentioned it in your bio, and I wanted to talk further about it. So you're a master instructor under Rangemaster, correct?
Yeah, I am a Rangemaster certified master instructor under Tom Givens. Yeah.
I just wanted to, I'm a newbie as far as it comes to the Rangemaster. I just got my basic level instructor certification under Tom.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
It was an amazing experience. And I just wanted to ask you about the effect that Tom's instructorship and your time training under him has affected you.
Wow. Well, so having gone through his initial 3-day instructor and then his advanced instructor, and then I was in the inaugural class for the Master Instructor back in November 2019. And I've also taken numerous other classes with Tom, and I still do. And I'll tell you, the most interesting thing about taking things and doing things with Tom he's a man who cares very, very deeply. He cares about people and wanting to teach them and train them to a high standard of being able to perform. And he takes it very seriously, and you can tell that there is a deep care in that, what he does. And it's so much, and this is such an interesting thing, I don't get nervous doing a lot of things and doing things in front of a lot of people. But for whatever reason, shooting, well, actually, I think I know the reason, but having to shoot and do things in front of Tom makes me just nervous to my core. And as I've talked to other people about this, and they have the same feeling. And we've discussed it. And let me tell you, if you think this is what it is, how you feel on this. Tom is somebody who I have the highest respect for, and I don't want to let him down. And that's where it all comes from. That it's like for anybody else, it's like, yeah, whatever. But there's just something with Tom and what he brings, and just that respect he earns and commands, that you just don't want to let him down. And so it puts that more pressure on you, and it makes you really take everything with so much more seriousness, with such a heavy gravity, to really, really take your training. It's not just, I just threw 1,000 rounds down range and we had fun and it was great. And then I go after this weekend, I go back home and I don't care about it. No, I care deeply about it. It becomes very transformative. Let me ask you, does that kind of jive maybe with your experience with Tom?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a brilliant way of putting it, John, is having to shoot those drills, not just in front of Tom, but in front of your peers against superb shooters. The amount of pressure that it puts on you, I'll just put it this way. It's much greater with Tom. I agree with that. I think that there is just so much value in making sure that all of us as instructors, new instructors like ourselves, or experienced instructors like yourself and others, is that we never stop putting ourselves under that kind of pressure, because it is absolutely every time we get the chance to put ourselves under some form of pressure or stress, helps us for the real thing, even though it's different, obviously. But every time we put ourselves through stress inoculations, through simunitions,
absolutely,
or a jiu-jitsu match, or shooting in front of Tom Givens, we better ourselves. Well, I guess that's the way I'll put it.
Hey, and I can just give a little bit of anecdote information on that too. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but I was taking a class called Establishing Dominance Paradigm with Craig Douglas, Tom Givens, and the late great William April. And there was a section where we were doing the shooting portion with Tom, and I was doing something, and he was getting on to me about something, and I finally just looked over at him. I said, "Tom, I'm sorry, sir, but I'm a little nervous doing it right in front of you, so give me a little bit of a break." So I know exactly what you're saying, and I straight up told him.
May I ask what his response was?
I don't remember. I think he just kind of walked off. But
I think that's what I could see him doing.
He did just walk off. I don't think he said anything. But just
He wasn't upset with you. He was disappointed.
He probably was, but he cares enough to be disappointed. Sorry to take us on that road, but and
that's absolutely it. He does care enough to. It's like if he'll be disappointed. I can't say obviously one way whether Tom was disappointed or however he was reacting there, but that is the thing, that he cares enough either which way, and that's I'm probably bursting the facade of Tom being the hardened old fart or whatever, but he's really great. Tom's been wonderful. He's been very good. He and his wife Lynn have been very, very good to me. I appreciate them a whole lot, and I'm very thankful for the instruction. He's definitely, Carl for certain has probably been my number one influence and mentor and everything, but Tom is right there as a very, very close second. in terms of the influence that he's had and how he's sowed a lot of seeds and a lot of the things that he's done to personally help and contribute to my growth and everything. So this is all to say for anyone out there listening, if you have not trained with, if you don't know who Tom Givens is, you need to learn. And if you haven't trained with Tom Givens, you need to make that a high priority. I understand that, ammunition and training budgets and everything right now are a kind of a tight thing. But so that means you just need to spend it wisely. And spending that money with Tom Givens is absolute, just excellent expenditure of your precious time and your resources. You will not regret it.
Yeah, and we can even say right now the previous episode to this one was our good friend Tom Givens. So this is a Tom Givens time here.
He certainly earned it.
Yes.
Tom's fantastic. So, but this is now to say that y'all need to continue to work to come up on all this here. And first off, it's wonderful, Eric. Welcome to the Rangemaster family and all this. That's absolutely great. Everybody else, Aaron, Bryant, y'all need to start coming along and working on this too, and coming on in here.
Yes. So, we're definitely on that path for sure.
It's wonderful.
Well, John, we follow you on Facebook, and I can tell there's something else that we have in common through this pandemic that we've been dealing with. Of course, all of us have done it, but I don't mind saying I've maybe been a little more active, but it appears that you and I have been in the gym a lot. And I wanted to ask you about your dedication to fitness and if there's a goal that you're after right now and what you're trying to achieve in there.
Yeah. So if anyone sits there and goes and follows me on Facebook or Instagram, that's pretty much what you get to see me doing, is that I sit there and I live in the gym. That's and I'm awesome. Just a stupid meathead in that way. But I kind of have, I guess, two goals with what I do. There's kind of my grander overarching, vision statement or whatever you may want to call it. And then there's the current actual goal that I have now. And I'll say the first is the main thing that I really do behind all this that motivates this is simply, I don't want to become decrepit. I don't, whether it's, stoicism, philosophy, or all this about I don't, memento mori, I know that someday I'm going to die. And I don't have a lot of control over when or how or whatever that's going to happen. But, and I don't try to exercise or eat right or do whatever to try to avoid death, because so much of fitness and health, and I'm making big scare quotes when I say that, is oriented around trying to hold on to youth and avoid death. And I'm sorry, try as you might, you can't avoid death. So, and it's not, of course, that I'm trying to race screaming towards it or anything, but just more the fact that I know that it's going to happen someday. So between now and then, I want to just make sure that my body and my mind and my soul and everything is able to live life to a fullest and most capable extent. Because I see things with people who are not even our age that struggle to do things like pick something up off the ground, like they drop something. And just to try to pick that up off the ground is an ordeal. Tying their shoes is an ordeal. Walking a flight of steps is an ordeal. I mean, I remember this all really started for me when I was in my early 20s, because my oldest child was an infant back then, and doing things like just getting down on the floor to roll around and just play with my kid. It was one of those, you get down, you're like, oh my gosh, and you try to get up and you're making those noises and everything. And that's not, I didn't, I felt also I worked at an office job, and it was on the third floor, and I'd walk 2 flights of stairs to get up there, and I'd be winded after 2 flights. I'm like, this is not right for someone in their, early mid-20s. So that was a real big change for me right there, was to say, I don't want to do that. And because then I'd watch people as they're older, and I'd observe them, and I'd see the struggles that they have, and I went, I don't want to do that. And there's a guy, and here's the thing that I've been telling people a lot. If you go onto YouTube and go search for a gentleman named Sonny, Sonny. He's actually Sam Bryant, but Sonny, he's a 70-year-old bodybuilder in Georgia. And this is a great thing. And the thing that I love about this video is, first off, he's 70 years old and he's ripped. Dude's big and he's ripped. He looks fantastic. And one of the things, if you have to know your way around the weight room to understand what was happening, but like the opening thing that they have in this little news art segment, he's deadlifting 405 pounds.
Wow.
At 70 years old. Because you see the 4 plates. He's deadlifting 405 at 70 years old. And that's fantastic. That is phenomenally on. And I'm going, see, and everyone's like, well, you're getting old. You shouldn't do that. That's going to hurt you, and you're going to hurt your knees or hurt your back, or you shouldn't do that. Why shouldn't you do that? He's doing great. I look at my own father, who's going to turn 80 this year. And I just got a picture from him of him shoveling snow and looking just fantastic. He's on no medications, no drugs, no nothing at 80 years old. How many people do you know that are 80 years old that are no medications? So that's the kind of thing that motivates me as my overarching thing with all this stuff with gym and fitness is I want to make sure that as I get older, I can still continue to enjoy life and do things really, really well and just in function to the fullest extent that I can. Then in specific, what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to lean out. I spent the past some years, I'm not going to say that I'm a power lifter, but basically trying to build up strength and hit goals. I wanted to overhead press 225. I wanted to bench 315, squat 405, and deadlift, 495, but really 500 pounds. And so I accomplished all of that in 2020. And that was great. And I'm like, great, I hit that goal. And now what I'm trying to do is basically I want to get lean. Basically, I switched from, if you will, lifting in a powerlifting style to now lifting in a more bodybuilding style. Because now what I want to do is I want to get nice and lean and stay lean. Because that's been a big struggle for me over years, has been the eating thing and the food part. Because the gym's easy. It's the kitchen part and the diet part that's the harder part. But that's where all the success really is. And so that's kind of where I'm focusing now, is working on my diet better, cleaning that up. I'm on a goal right now to drop down to 225 and just shed some fat off and then just continue to work that way. And that's my goal right now, is being lean, because while I like being a big guy, trotting around a lot of that body weight, even that still takes a toll on you as well. So I want to make sure that if I'm going to tote it around, it's going to be lean and sexy. So
Well, if I can follow up with that, John, Mark Ripito, even though I have a few disagreements with Mark Ripito on certain things, just my thought process on things, but I think he says it well. He says essentially that you don't die of old age. You essentially die because you're no longer strong, and that being strong does help you delay death, So yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. I love your philosophy on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things where, just like I said earlier, like tell me a place where having, more knowledge is a bad thing. Tell me a place where being weak is a good thing, right? I'm not saying that people have to be able to squat 600 pounds or anything like that. It's not that you have to be strong like that, but I'm just talking relatively speaking, just having the ability to squat down, just to bend your knees and squat all the way down to the ground and then pick something up, as opposed to, trying to barely bend down and struggling to do so. Right. Just being able to have enough strength and to be strong enough to get through life. How is that a bad thing? And then if you could be a little bit stronger, how is that a bad thing? Especially if we, tie it back to self-defense and however we want to. I mean, granted, technique is important, but there's still no question that a bigger, stronger person, all other things being equal, is going to have an advantage.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I want to make sure I can have every advantage I can through life. So it's worthwhile.
Well, what does a typical training week look like for you? We've already kind of hit on your goals for fitness. How about combatives, your typical shooting week, and or how often you shoot, dry fire, so on and so forth? So minus a fitness, what's your combative shooting dry fire look like?
Well, I don't do a lot of combatives right now these days, because I just, in terms of how much time in a day that I do and don't have, there's only so much I can fit in. So I don't have a lot of combatives at this time. That's something that I would like to bring back sometime in the future. But right now, like I said, I just said I have these particular goals, and that's more important to me at this point. But then with dry fire, I have to admit, I've been a little slack with my dry fire. But now that I'm getting, here we're getting moved into the new house, I'm getting everything reset back up, including my dry fire area. And usually what I like to try to do is, because I wake up in the morning, I get up really early. I get sometime in the 3 to 4 o'clock hour in the morning. I get up, I go to the gym. I'm there for a couple hours, come home, shower, eat. And then before I start my work day, with my day job work day, I like to try to do some kind of dry fire. That's the preference of what I try to do, is some kind of dry work, whatever that may be. A lot of times it may be that all I've got, because I've got to rush to the office and get working on stuff, I may just sit there and just do, a few minutes of just draw and present, just kind of draw the first shot sorts of things. But then sometimes I'll work other skills that I need, just whatever I need, because really the work is going to be in dry fire. And especially these days now, with ammo being what it is, live practice doesn't happen as often, or at least can't be as plentiful. But one thing that I started doing some months ago, I started doing something called "It's Cold Drill Time Again," riffing on the Kiss Cold Gin song.
Nice.
And there's even, and I even created a little hashtag for it. It's Cold Drill Time Again. You can certainly find when I've done this on my Instagram. And the intent there is simple. So this is another thing that I got from Tom Givens, is the importance of what you can do cold performance on demand, because that's generally what it's going to be when the flag flies for you. So what I'll do is I'll pick some sort of drill that used to be, I was happier picking like maybe higher round counts, like FBI qual or the Rangemaster Master Instructor qual, things like that. But now I'm picking smaller ones, like say 5-yard roundup, the test, maybe KR trainings, 3 seconds or less, lower round count drills. And the point is that I need to just set up the target and shoot the drill cold. And that's all I do, because the live practice isn't so much where the skill is built. That's where the skill is validated. The skill really ultimately gets built in dry practice, or at least that's where you can do most everything except like recoil management and such like that in dry work. So that's really what it should be, is use this, assess, see what I'm doing, assess what I'm doing live, and then try to go back and work on that in dry. So, and what I'm trying to do now going forward, just again with ammo being what it is, basically I'm trying to allocate that when I go out to KR training to teach or to do whatever I'm doing, I want to allocate myself a box of 50, and I've got to make the best use of that box of 50 to get some kind of live work in, see where I am, see what's going on, and figure out then, okay, well, this is where I'm bad, this is where I need some work, and then I'll make sure to work on that in live. And then basically next month, when I get my next little 50-round allocation, see how well have I fixed it? Have I, not fixed it? What do I still need work on? What do I need to do? And just use that live work as an assessment. So that's kind of, a typical approach as to what I have right now in terms of addressing that work.
What I find interesting is at the beginning of this year, I was running through about 1,500 rounds a month. And now I've gone to just that. About every other week, I'm bringing a box of 50, and that's it, and just getting the most out of it. So that's just interesting that you said about the same thing.
Yeah, and are you finding your dry fire increasing more, or are you staying about the same in terms of your rate?
I would say now I've been dry firing a lot more. We have an accountability section on our show, and we often talk about what we've done for the week. And my dry fire, I dry fire. I try to get in about 10 to 15 minutes a day, and then sometimes a couple of times at that. But yeah, so I wouldn't say it's changed much, but it needs to. So, but I can say this, that I more than anything, I'm being way more purposeful with those 50 rounds for sure. Now, I didn't go and plink like a lot of people may assume when I was running those, 200 or 300 rounds a session, but it really does, it feels like gold. So you make sure you're getting every every bit of good out of every, $2 shot.
Yeah, and that's the bad part is when you're sitting there and you're shooting, and every time you're like going, pop, oh, that's $1, pop, that's $1, pop, that's $1.
Yep.
And every single time you're just thinking, wow, yeah. So
yeah, we had it good at the beginning of the year, and I had ammo. I would just order every few weeks, and then Brian started getting on to me, man, you need to stop buying at your burn rate. It'll be okay. Then I got caught with my pants down. So another subject for another day, I guess.
Well, speaking about dry fire, because this is honestly, I've used this more for dry fire than live fire, but I wanted to ask you about the Practice Deck app, and we don't need to spend a bunch of time on it, but that's something I'll use honestly to find a drill to shoot dry fire with, because a lot of people don't understand. Shooting dry fire isn't just drawing your gun and clicking the trigger. You should be acquiring targets and shooting a drill.
yes, there is more to it than that. There you can set up, but like I said, anything you can do live for the most part, you can do dry, including movement, like getting off the X, moving from one position to another position, doing target transitions. There's all sorts you can do. So to your thing about the Practice Deck. So what this is that there is a gentleman, Dave Ray. Dave is a USPSA Grandmaster Open Division shooter. He lived he's now back. He's in the Austin, Texas area. And Dave's a buddy of mine. And he created literally a thing called the DR Performance Practice Deck, which was a deck of 52 cards. It's a card deck. And it was intended, it's a physical thing. And the deck, according to each, the suits and all this, have different drills printed on them. And the goal that Dave had was, you keep this in your range bag, and when you go to the range, you're not sure what you want to practice or what you want to do, or you can even make a game out of it, like, oh, here, randomly shuffle and we'll pick this one, or do challenges or whatever you want to do. So you can just do that. Well, I approached Dave a long time ago. Little interesting tidbit. This was the first iOS app I ever wrote.
Oh,
I've been a Mac developer. Yeah. So I've been doing professional programmer for about 25 years. And I've always did like Mac and other things like that. But this was in my first actually dabbling and foray into iOS. I had seen it and I approached Dave and I said, hey, would you mind if I made a digital version of your app? And he said, sure. So we did that. I made the app, put it out there. This was, it's been out for a number of years. I don't remember how it's pretty old, but it's still out there. It's still actually active in the App Store. It's still there for sale and all that. And it's fantastic to hear that you use it and that you find the drills and all that. And so we didn't add anything special. It was literally just making a digital version of the 52 cards and all that. But we could add a few little things, like you could make your own decks and your own custom little things and all that. So, but that's great to hear that you use it. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And there are great.
Oh, and for people who may be wondering.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Now, I will say part of this is, since Dave was oriented around competition, a lot of the drills are definitely oriented towards skills that are used in USPSA style competition. However, still, being able to draw and shoot quickly and accurately is just a fundamental skill regardless. So even if you're not a competition shooter, absolutely, you're going to be able to find some utility out of this and drills in here.
Well, good deal. Now, referring back to what we mentioned in the beginning, that you were the co-author with Carl Wren for the book Strategies and Standards for Defensive Handgun Training. Now, these days, do you have any plans for a new book?
Actually, I have something that's in the wings, ready to go. We're just waiting for something to happen. But I can talk about it a little bit. The book, it's going to actually just be an ebook. And it's just called simply Drills, Qualifications, Standards, and Tests. And what this is what happened was years ago, I started collecting hey, these are all the drills that I like to run because they teach me something. There's something that I like about it. It's a good drill. It's a hard drill. It's a whatever drill. And sometimes it's also and these are drills that we use in class. And so I took them and I just put them into a document. And then I would take that document and I'd convert it to a PDF, and I just kept it on my phone. And so that way I just had my own personal collection of, these are all my drills that for whatever reason I'm on a reference of. And I made it easy for me when I'm on the range to just pull it out and, oh, there's my reference. Yep, that one. Good. And away I could go. Well, what I decided to do was I took that, I cleaned it up, standardized it in terms of formatting and layout. I brought in some other very useful things. And then I added a section in the beginning where I actually talked about a lot of things, some evolutions, reasons behind, some philosophy things, not deep like, Socratic philosophy or anything, but, behind the drills and such. And so I've got that all together, and that's going to be released as an ebook. And what we're just waiting for is for the KR training website to be revamped. And that is imminent. I'll just have to leave it at that right now. But that is imminent. And so we want to release that with it as kind of a thing. But so this is, y'all the first to hear that this is the publicness of this happening. But that's coming. So that's something that I have done. And I hope that people will find that useful, especially right now, because it's got both collections of large drills and also very short round count drills. So it's something that I hope people will be able to use and find as a nice reference as they can try to continue their training.
Perfect. Breaking news on the Evolution Security podcast. we look forward to that. That's great. So now I want to go on to a conversation here that's fun for me and Eric. I've heard a rumor that maybe you have been or are still a musician. Is that the case?
Was. And maybe someday again, but again, just with only so much time in a day, I actually ended up selling my prized Gibson SG, beautiful heritage cherry. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing, but it had just been sitting collecting dust too much, and I found somebody who was able to give it a loving home, and so I was willing to go ahead and part with it. So yes, a little sad, but I was in the radio industry for a number of years in my younger years, and I played music. I mean, ever since, I was a kid, taking piano lessons and then violin and trumpet and French horn, and then found the guitar and all that came with that. And that was all great for a number of time in my early life, but yeah, I just don't have time for it now. But the reason I say I may come back to it is I have had thoughts occasionally, and I know this isn't very metal. Well, it kind of is. If I thought about taking up French horn again, maybe sometime in the future. So
any instrument. That's awesome. Even if you long for the days that you played an instrument and don't ever get back into it, but it's just life enriching while you have it. And I mean,
absolutely,
it's that's super cool. But I think it'd be cool to take up a horn like that. That's great. But
well, and I've seen the beautiful new, guitars and drums that you all have. So, and I sit there and I go, "Ooh, that's nice." Oh. So I'll live vicariously through you guys right now. So,
well, I am a gear nerd for sure. We could take up a lot of time talking about guitar gear, so I won't. Other than that SG you had sounds like a killer guitar. Yeah, great iconic guitar, the SG. Anyone that may wonder what a Gibson SG is, the most iconic guitar by that Angus Young would play. So there you go.
Yeah, that's it. Angus Young. Hey, and also Tommy Iommi.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah.
John, you may or may not know this, but the bumper music is Aaron and I playing. And that's been something.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if any of the bumper music you hear is Aaron and I, and frankly, Aaron is a real musician. I mean, he blows me away musicianship wise. But this venture, for some reason, it's like a new opportunity for me to play drums again with some kind of seriousness. And I just got a new drum kit that is precious to me now. I mean, it's my dream kit, and so Aaron and I just finished a recording of a newer song, which it will be on your episode. It's on the new Tom Givens episode too. But it's just something that is is a lot of fun, and we were looking forward to kind of talking music with you.
Yeah.
But
Music is.
Go ahead.
No. I was just say that I think it's wonderful because music is an amazing thing. It's such a fantastic outlet. It's a great way to be able to express yourself, to be able to bond with other people, to come together, and especially I think that's great that you guys are able to do that together and you're able to produce the music. And like I said, I didn't realize that all your bumper music and everything was you guys, and that's phenomenal. That's just fantastic.
Well, and Miyamoto Musashi was quoted in multiple ways, basically saying that every martial artist needs art of some sort. So, with that said, do you believe that being a musician makes you a better martial artist?
I could think so, especially at a very. I mean, if I could look at it, just like what music played in my life and how the music that, my practice of it, and especially in my earlier years and how it's influenced me now, I think one of the biggest ways that has helped in that is practice.
Yeah.
Because, and to understand that practice, you have to practice the not fun things to be able to do the fun things, if you will.
Amen.
So in other words,
that's good.
Like practicing scales. It's like scales, that's quote unquote, that's not making music, that's scales. But doing the scales, or depending, like, if you're playing piano or guitar, doing like finger exercises to be able to run the fretboard, to be able to stretch, to be able to just do interesting little complex patterns, or, even like when you're playing drums, all the rudiments, these things aren't quote unquote music, but those are all the skills that you need to have so that then you can move fluently. So you have to put in the time and the effort on those skills. So then when you want to let that music just pour out of your heart, it then will just pour out naturally. And so, if you want to link it to, say, shooting, it's like, fine, stand and shoot drills and standards and stuff like that may not be, that dynamic force event, but to be able to function in that dynamic force event, you need to be able to make all of the skills of, the draw and, getting your sights and pressing the trigger and all that stuff to have that automaticity. And that's the same as, doing all those, sitting there. Okay, I'm going to just sit here and just keep, practicing, here, stand and draw, just, here, draw to A zone, draw to A zone, draw to A zone over and over. Because that's your scales. So you do that to build up those skills. So then when you actually have to do your dynamic of whatever it is to let it all pour out of you, you're able to just function. So I think, as a musician, developing that, it helps you come to appreciate and to know how playing your scales, that's what's enabled you to make music.
It sounds like to me, I translate that as you become used to the process
Yes.
of moving through a skill set and knowing that today you won't be able to do what you want to do 2 years from now. But if you keep doing it today, you're going to be hitting that A zone in a second, et cetera.
Yeah. Or being able to play that riff at 1,000,000 miles an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. That's a fantastic way of putting it. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, then, since we're talking about music here, John, here's one of my favorite questions, and it is,
All right.
Can you give us your 3 favorite bands and or musicians?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Well, I think I can, it changes for me a lot. Like, depending on the time of life that I'm in, as to like, who's my favorite band today.
Sure.
And the funny part was I just was looking at, on my Apple Music, did a thing of here's all the great stuff that you would listen to, predominantly in 2020. And I realized the top bands there were Hatebreed, Volbeat, and High on Fire. And so I don't know how much those classify as my like all-time favorite bands, but for right now, they absolutely are. And I'll just say the big shout out I'll give is to Hatebreed, because it just builds on not only just the music that's in there between that mix of like kind of metal and hardcore, but lyrically, it's all about that PMA, that positive mental attitude, and the attitude and the expression and everything that comes out of that. I'm all about that. So I find myself listening to Hatebreed a lot because it's very motivating and it's very, for as aggressive as it is, you don't think it is, but it's an extremely positive type of music. It's kind of in there with things like Cro-Mags and going back, even PMA back to Bad Brains and stuff like that. So that's probably, if I had to say there's anything that's maybe a favorite band right now, it's probably got to be Hatebreed.
Man.
Nice.
How about you?
Outstanding. How about me? How about us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me you guys's.
Well, I'll just name real quick. My favorite rock band is the Foo Fighters. My favorite jazz guitar player is Bill Frisell. And man, I'm really into Brad Paisley. So a few different styles there, but I literally will crank up every single one of them. It just depends on what day it is.
Yeah, and I'm
That's awesome.
I'm like literally stuck in the 80s, but I listen to a lot of I do listen to, Metallica and everything, but I listen to a lot of dance music in the gym. So a lot of current mixed stuff, but if I had to pick one band, it'd probably be New Order.
Ah, excellent.
A little old school there.
Yeah.
And so I'll just take one favorite band, and then I'll name a favorite musician. I'm going with what Aaron did. I'm old school. I would say my favorite band is Metallica. I just love them. They
Wait.
Go ahead.
Which era?
The Black Album. No,
Well, their first album, the Black Album, that's my favorite.
I knew that was going to come in there. So I would say Master of Puppets is what brought me into liking them, and then we went backwards from there. Aaron and I did. So yeah, it started with Master of Puppets, went backwards, and then and didn't stop. So I love all their albums. I have some less favorite albums. Saint Anger I don't think was all that great, but I still love some songs.
Lulu, that's your favorite.
What's that now?
Right. Is Lulu your favorite?
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that one. But my favorite musician is Tim Alexander, the drummer of Primus.
yeah.
He's influenced me big time. So yeah, that's my little section there, I suppose.
Well,
Fantastic. I love it.
you can hear Tim Alexander in your playing too, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it comes out a little bit, not like it used to.
Well, Keith,
That just means more practice.
more practice,
Exactly.
more process.
I'm actually looking at my practice pad right now, so yep, it's time to put in some rudiments. But with that said, I think that kind of closes us out. I mean, I want the Aaron and Brian to be able to say goodbye. But John, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. You are a superb guest. We've had a blast. What I will tell you is that just like we promised Carl that we would come and train at KR Training, I'm promising you the same thing. The three of us will make it out there and take some classes from you guys. So we look forward to that.
Cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely looking forward to seeing you all down here. We'll make sure to have a great time.
Awesome. Well, if it's anything like this interview, we're going to have a heck of a time because this has been fun.
No, absolutely.
Excellent.
Great conversation.
Yeah. Enjoyed it a whole lot too, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Pleasure to have you, man.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, as always, just another awesome guest. John graced us with his presence, and boy, he's a smart dude, very articulate. I love hearing what he had to say, and again, he was just a pleasure to have on the show.
Oh, and just a great conversation. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I love about our interviews is it's just like hanging out with your buddies, man. That was so cool.
Hanging out with your buddies if they're
And it's not going to be the last time we have him on. And of course, as we promised in the show, that we're going to go out and train with him and Carl. So I look forward to that.
awesome. Well, you guys want to go ahead and have a good conversation about our drill that we prescribed last show? Eric, you want to explain it, and we'll kind of go around the room here and talk about it.
Yeah, you want me to go over the exact drill, Aaron? Is that what you want me to
Sure,
do?
give us an idea of it. I don't know if you need to go over the exact specifics, but let's.
So, of course, in light of my recent Rangemaster Instructor development class, and of course, John is an instructor, a Master Instructor under Rangemaster, we decided that we would prescribe the baseline skill assessment drill from Rangemaster on a B8 bull or any type of B8 bull type target. You start at 5 yards, draw and fire 5 rounds in 5 seconds using both hands. Next string is 5 yards again. Start gun in hand at ready, dominant hand only, 3 rounds in 3 seconds. Third string is 5 yards again. Start gun in hand at ready, in non-dominant hand only. Fire 2 rounds in 3 seconds. Next string is 7 yards, gun in hand, loaded with 3 rounds only. This is both hands, that is, and fire 3 rounds. Do an empty gun reload. Fire 3 more rounds in 10 seconds. And then the last string is 10 yards. Start gun in hand at ready, 2 hands. Fire 4 rounds in 4 seconds. So that's 20 rounds, well-spent rounds, I will say, with a possible score of 200 points. Of course, the B8 bullet scored as you would normally score a B8 bull. So what did you guys think of that drill?
It was harder than I expected.
I'll let you
Yes.
guys talk about it, and then I'll give my confession here.
Well, I didn't have a lot of time to shoot this week, and I did do what I normally like to do, and I shot it cold. And
Which is awesome.
Yeah, no, and the cool thing about that was I did a couple practice draws. That's it. That's what I normally like to do to start, and again, there's definitely something to be said about shooting these dry fire for sure. But when I go to the range to shoot, I like to just practice my draw just 3 or 4 times, just to make sure I'm clearing my garment, that I'm not having some wardrobe malfunction, and then shoot the first drill cold so that I've got like a baseline to go off of. And that's usually what I want to kind of stage my day around. But I was on a short time leash, and I did just shoot the drill cold one time and counted it, and I was down 24 points. And I don't think I had anything outside the 8 ring, but that 10-second reload, that was the one I probably struggled the most with. I think I put 2 or 3 rounds in the 8 ring on that one, and that they add up. I probably had half, a little over half of my bullets in the X and the 10. So that you have that many bullets and start counting 2 1s and 2s, and it starts to add up. So anyway, that reload, I know that I think I probably got the most down on that reload for a single one of the stages, and I shot it in 8.5 seconds. Now, it's not like I shot it way too fast, but I had time to make those shots count. And if I'd done the drill, 4 or 5 more times, I'm sure I could have gotten into the high 80s or low 90s easily. But I wanted to see, what my cold reaction was on that. And I wasn't disappointed with that. But it is definitely, kind of just opens your eyes to, because these are short range. Really, they're not, the longest distance is not that far. And none of them are particularly difficult shots, but focusing on your front sight, taking time to press the trigger instead of jerk the trigger, those are the things that was made aware of while I was doing it. So, but great drill, relatively low round count, and a good baseline skill assessment. So, was there an average mark that he was saying that we should try to hit on that? Do you recall?
I thought he said 180.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember.
But I'm not tracking that there's any particular requirement because, again, it's an assessment drill. So Tom doesn't use it in any of the courses as a pass or fail drill. But I've heard several of the instructors under Tom say that they believe that the instructors should try for the 190 or above. And I'll tell you, I mean, what I think about as we've done this venture is I sit there and think, man, I think this is like one of my new favorite drills. And I had to say, this is one of my new favorite drills, mainly because some of the drills like the Todd Green fast drill, which I really love, that is an incredible drill, but it's only a few rounds that doesn't assess as much as, say, this drill does. Not poo-pooing that drill at all. I think it's wonderful. As a matter of fact, I'd like to shoot it again soon. But just with 20 rounds, there's so much that this drill tests. And I will tell you this, I honestly feel like I got lucky on my score. So that's why I stopped. I only shot it once. But now I will tell you, full disclosure, I didn't shoot it cold for one reason. There were people shooting in the bay with me, and I could not hear my timer well enough. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to shoot this drill. And they packed up and left. So I probably had shot maybe, I don't know, 30 or so rounds just shooting groups. So yeah, mine wasn't cold like Brian. So that's the story there. But I am glad that I shot a 192. But that's, for some folks that may, I'm sure that some folks in the Rangemaster family and so on and so forth, that's not that big of a deal. But I was pleased with it. So I was like, I'm done. I'm going to end on a good imprint.
You drop the mic.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I will tell you, I do sincerely feel like I got lucky on it, guys. I will digress a second, though. Being in the hotel, I'm limited on what I can do dry fire wise because I don't have all my other targets I normally have or abilities to move. So I've been spending a lot more time on carbine and on pistol. I frankly shot this drill in dry fire like almost every day this week. So you can take it for what it's worth. I think I spent so much time on the dominant hand and the non-dominant hand stuff in dry fire that it did pay dividends in shooting the drill. So I suppose you can argue that I didn't shoot it cold. So that's my story.
Well, hey, before I kind of come into what I worked on with my pistol, and I wanted to ask Eric, you mentioned this, and I think you might have even talked to Tom Givens about it. You said that he has kind of made you rethink your, quote, speed reload. Can you expound on that? Because I can't remember. It seems like he didn't like you using the slide release. Is that still what he's up to, or is that what you were talking about?
Yes, and yeah. So during the training and in the course, I mean, he wanted the guns loaded on all the time essentially, which makes perfect sense. And he also takes the opportunity to instill that in you that you're going to keep your gun topped off. But what I mean by rethinking that speed reload, because we've been taught that I think it's IDPA actually that's taught us that the speed reload is like a USPSA kind of thing. And sorry guys, got the killer pug going there. Yeah, so, USPSA uses those reloads, and it's kind of become taboo in the quote-unquote tactical realm. But the truth is that civilians, if you're going to do a reload, it's probably going to be a speed reload. And if you get to a slide lock reload, which they're important, or an emergency reload, they're important, but we know that statistically you're likely not going to do that. You're likely not even going to do a speed reload.
Okay, Eric. So maybe I'm not understanding some of the nomenclature here. You're saying slide lock versus speed reload. What's the difference?
Yeah. So the difference is that a speed reload is that you still have a round in the chamber. You drop a magazine on the ground with rounds in it.
Okay.
So let's say you've shot 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds in a magazine, and you've got a chance to reload, and you drop that magazine that even has rounds in it and top it off.
Okay, and as opposed to even doing like we used to have to do an IDPA, where you had to do a quote tactical reload, where you traded mags and then put the other mag in your pocket.
Yeah, and even IDPA is doing that a lot less. I don't know if the club that you're shooting
I haven't done one of those quote tactical reloads in several years. So yeah, I think it's completely dropped out of IDPA.
Yeah. So and Brian's been a proponent of the speed reload for a long time, and it wasn't that I wasn't taking heed to Brian's suggestions. It's just it took me a little while to get it into my lexicon, and the Rangemaster class pushed me over the hill as I have Brian's voice in the back of my head too.
Well, and my competitive shooting has fallen a little more into the run and gun category than some of the rules that you've got, like in IDPA, where there's penalties for leaving live rounds on the ground. Yep. So we often build our stages around having an extra round or two and intentionally reloading with rounds left, just to take that extra motion out of the workspace. But definitely would say to anyone doing any type of personal training, you should be competent in both. That's important to be able to do both of them, because if you shoot to dry and push your gun back up without, mechanically releasing the slide as you come up, you shouldn't be on target with your slide open and then be, hold on, I need to chamber this before you're ready. It should come up into position ready to fire.
And then there's still an argument. You guys forgive me if you disagree, but to me, that's still, they are outliers for the civilian, right? John Korea says he's seen like maybe 1 or 2 civilian reloads, and neither of them mattered in the fight. But in that major outlier situation, if you're a dude ducked behind some concrete and you feel like you can do a tactical reload, store some of that ammo in your pocket. I guess it'd be nice to at least be familiar with all three.
Yeah. Well, and if I can give my 2 cents on tactical reloads, or tactical reloads make a difference, are with a rifle and bounding with a team, or if you're in a position where you're online and you've got a squad of riflemen and you're engaging the enemy, tactical reloads make a difference there for damn sure.
And for, again, like you're talking about, Aaron, being the likelihood of that being effective in a self-defense situation, I definitely think people should train in both if they're going to shoot, especially if they're going to shoot competitively. But, again, not part of this drill, but the thing that we all should probably practice more is unknown malfunction clearing. And, having someone else load your mag and dropping that, plastic bullet in there where you don't know where it's at. That's probably a more important skill, just to learn to keep your firearm clear and how to put it back in the fight.
A good old tap rack,
very good point.
Tap rack and roll, not just the tap rack. But that's another subject for another day. Well, guys, you want me to give my little confession here and give my story, though?
Well, what did you score on the drill?
That was a flat 0 on that particular drill. I missed every shot at that B8, every single one. It's because I didn't shoot it.
Well, I've been there, so I don't feel too.
Well,
bad.
I was there with the previous carbine drill.
Well, but I just want to say though, I definitely did some shooting, and the reason why I didn't shoot the drill, you guys, we've talked about it, of course. Audience, you have to know that the three of us probably have 200 texts between us a day, whether it's about guns, jokes, or what have you. We're always talking about our new gear, etc. So they know full well, and we talked about it on the other show, that I was putting together a Glock 17 MOS with a dot on it. And so the last couple of weeks, I have been working on dialing in the 0 on my Vortex Venom. And so when I went last planning on shooting the drill, it just took me a while to dial in the 0. I didn't try and measure things out and MOA. Just for a pistol, that seemed like it'd be ridiculous. I guess I probably should have. But long story short, I took too many rounds, 0 in it. But once I got it dialed in, I wanted to shoot some stuff that I was comfortable with so that I could really see how this gun shot and how it would do for me to maybe improve how I'm shooting. And guys, I am now a true believer in the red dot pistol. I don't think it's necessarily for everybody, but many people know well that my vision is not great. I've got early onset cataracts at 47 years old and have always had pretty bad vision. I started shooting, so I wanted to shoot something that I was familiar with, but that was still a bit of a challenge for me. I started practicing the last string in the IDPA classifier, the 5x5, which is the 4 shots to the, of course, draw, 4 shots to the body, and then 1 to the head. With irons, even at that 10 yards, man, I was often shooting right over that dude's head. I'm telling you, with this red dot, I was shooting 30% more accurate. I ran that particular stage probably 9 times, and I shot every headshot nearly dead in the ring. And then the only shots I had out on 2 of the renditions were on the body. Otherwise, I shot it clean 7 times. And faster than I've been shooting and more accurate. So, yes, I am a believer in this, guys.
Nice.
So,
nice.
I'm pretty...
Man, I'm pumped for you, brother.
Well, and it's got me looking at other optics and thinking about getting a 19 for a carry and putting an optic on it. And now my wife, she's dreaming about a 48 MOS and a dot on it for her. So... we're going to be a dot family here pretty soon. But that's cool. My excuse, guys. But I did have a game changer of a shooting experience this weekend. It's not hyperbole. It helped me big time. I think I'm gonna jump up quite a bit in IDPA, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this helps me in my next match. Because,
cool.
Awesome,
I did want to say, because my ability to manipulate the pistol and manipulate the trigger has been there for a long time, right? But here I can see what I need to see. And so my manipulation skills can be used to their fullest ability. And that was another thing. You guys have talked about using your laser trainers. This is just like a laser trainer, and it has helped me dial in exactly where I need to have my finger on the trigger to get the cleanest pulls. And guys, it's about right on the crease of that first knuckle. Not right before it, but on the crease. I've been getting the cleanest pulls on that. But again, I learned that from having this dot here to dry fire every day.
Well, Aaron, and I can add something to that. There is not a one-size-fits-all trigger placement.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm more traditional. That first portion of the pad right before the first knuckle. But I've had to play with jamming more finger. I know Pat McNamara says jam more finger. So it is not a one size fits all. And thumbs forward. Some people need more thumbs on the frame. Some need no thumbs on the frame. I mean, folks have to find what works best for them. So that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
So enough about shooting. You guys want to go into the accountability, or are you going to say something, Brian?
No.
All right. Well, let me jump through my accountability real quick. I did have a pretty good week. I did hit JITS 2 times this week, and I'll go again this weekend. Looking forward to it. Now, every single day I've been studying my testing videos, and I believe that's going to be a key to get me in there and finally testing. A lot of people at my school are just passing me by because I keep kind of procrastinating on this. But I'm used.
Stop it.
Yeah, I'm used to making straight A's, and I get concerned when I don't do a proper grip on a particular technique and think, man, I don't want to do that in the test, etc. But yeah, I'm going to get it going here really soon. And audience, please be patient with me. I know you've heard me talk about this a while. But I did go get a really good cardio workout yesterday. My wife and I hit the gym, just doing some simple stuff on a bike and elliptical, but just working on getting that heart rate and resting heart rate down and feeling better. I always feel better when I get more cardio in. But guys, that's it for me.
Brian, what you got, buddy?
Right on. Well, I'll take it. So I did get to the gym 4 times last week. That was awesome. Did some lifting and some regular CrossFit workouts. Also got to the massage gal. She's actually a member at our gym. Shout out Crunchy Muscles. It's a great name. I had no idea my calves were that much of a source of pain. She worked me over, and it's a good thing because I feel much better. Today that was actually yesterday, and it's a huge thing for your mobility, and that's another thing that I need to commit to doing more of is mobility, because I can do all these workouts, but if I'm not taking time to stretch and move my body in the times that I'm not working out, then all I'm doing is making constricted muscles, and that's not the point. Did get an awesome flight in.
Yeah.
Did about 3 hours. Did a little 3-leg run. Went up to Jefferson County Municipal Airport, where they have a restaurant with some outdoor dining area. And that was awesome to be able to go sit down and have a meal. Went with several friends. That was very cool to do an outing like that with a group. Because we don't get to do that stuff now, But I'm going to go ahead and throw the gauntlet down for myself. I am coming up on where I'm going to be eligible for doing my check ride in the next few months here, and I need to finish my written test for my private pilot. So I'm giving myself 60 days to get my written test scheduled and taken, and we'll see if that occurs. We'll check back in on that, but that's a big accountability thing for me right now, because that is my deep dive at the moment is the flying. But that's where I'm at for the week. And what do you got, Eric?
Well, guys, I'm gonna have to admit, you guys have put me to shame on workout and jiu-jitsu this week. Full disclosure, I didn't even tell you guys this in text because it seemed like a broken record, but I once again had a slight tweak to my back, and I think that it ultimately is a little bit of a holdover from 2 months ago when I tweaked it with Ryan. But I'm feeling great today, and so I just decided this week I'm going to take it easy, just do mobility, and I'm feeling great. So. I think the move and being in vehicles for so long, I think one of my discs just started getting irritated. So you guys put me to shame on workouts this week. That said, what do when we need to take it easy? We put our focus somewhere else, and so I put a lot of focus on jiu-jitsu videos and review, primarily the Danaher guard retention and his straitjacket back take stuff. So I got some mental repetitions in there, so I didn't let my jiu-jitsu completely go into the back burner. So and guys, Danaher stuff, I have to admit, I don't think there's any better video instruction out there. So if anybody in the audience is wanting to invest in video instruction, BJJ fanatics, look at the Danaher videos. There's a ton of them, and you will not be disappointed. So as far as dry fire, I dry fired every single day this week. As I previously said, I dry fired the drill of the week that we prescribed, and I have done a ton of carbine dry fire. Essentially, again, the embarrassment I had on myself from my poor performance in carbine the last couple of drills. I was like, you know what? Part of my problem is I'm not putting enough time in on it. So I've spent a lot of time even just slow fire on small little dots in standing position, kneeling, sitting, and prone, all in the hotel. And that stuff pays huge dividends. I did a lot of studying this week because, guys, I think I told you I've been thinking about revamping some of our curriculum, primarily based on some of the stuff that I learned in the Rangemaster Instructor course. So I've been studying a lot of the manual and then the concealed carry book, and I got some new stuff I want to send you guys' way here in the next week. Let you guys review and add your thoughts on it, so on and so forth. So that's coming your way. As far as the drill for this week, I circled back to slow fire. So we're going to dial it back a lot. You know, we're always doing stuff on the clock. I think we're going to just go ahead and step back a little bit. We're going to do some carbine again, but we're not going to worry about time whatsoever. We're going to do 4-position slow fire. And let's just do 3-position. Standing, and if you can, I would say start at 50, at least with the standing, but I'd like to do standing 10 rounds, slow fire at 50 or 25. Don't worry about the distance, folks. No big deal. All I want to do is for us to get out and slow fire carbine, work on the best groups we can get. And then in the kneeling position, 50 or 100, and same thing on prone. But there's no time, no nothing, just pure marksmanship. You know, so let's just aim for 30 rounds, 10 in each position. How's that sound, guys?
Like it, yeah. Keep the round count down and the
Yeah,
accuracy.
sounds great. I really did want to do more carbine, so that sounds great to me.
Yeah, just have some fun shooting slow, just working on our marksmanship fundamentals. I mean, think about natural point of aim. You know, the folks in the audience do some reading on natural point of aim, but I can give you a real quick suggestion. Say, for instance, prone. Get into position, either your scope, your dot, or your iron sights, point in at the target, focus on the target. And then what we want you to do is we want you to breathe, close your eyes, breathe, and even just shake your rifle a little bit, and then open your eyes. If your dot or your scope or your sight is off the target, then you need to adjust your natural point of aim, which let's say that you shake the rifle, you open your eyes, and your dot or scope is pointing towards the right of the target, then you need to shift your hips just slightly to the right. So that brings so the dot's to the right, shift your hips to the right a little bit, and that'll pull your dot or your natural point of aim closer to the target. So just a little bit of tip. And take the time to do that on your shots. Brian, you got anything you might want to add to that? Because I know you're the rifleman in this group.
Oh gosh, easy now. No, I think just being mindful of no different than the pistol. When you take your shot, be mindful about your reset and return your sights to zero before releasing the next shot. And that's one of the things I can do is, when I'm trying to double tap something, for instance, is, when I'm doing it right, those shots are about a half or a quarter inch apart on the target. When I'm not doing it right, they're like 2 inches apart on the target. And I'm talking 50 yards and in, at 100 yards, you're obviously going to have some spread, but, mindfully getting that, whether it's your rifle sights, your red dot, or your variable power scope, getting that sight picture reacquired before releasing the next round, So just being mindful about your acquisition and your trigger release. That's all I'd say.
Well, and I can also add, again, we're talking about fundamentals of marksmanship. We're not delving totally deep into that right now, but also when you're shooting rifle and you've got the time, get down to your respiratory pause. When you're breathing, let that breath out. When your breath is at the bottom of the respiratory pause, and then bang, release your trigger at that point. Start pressing and letting it release during that pause.
Eric, you're making, before we get going here, you're making me think of something in Lanny Basham's book. Do you remember what those gold medal shooters had to do? They worked on their cardio so they could get their heart rate low enough to where they knew when they could shoot between heartbeats. Do you remember that in his book?
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, that's some serious precision there when you're trying to learn to shoot between your heartbeats.
Yeah, you got to get that stroke volume up and resting heart rate in the 40s or low 50s.
And that's a quick shout out to another great man, Lanny Basham. If you haven't read his book with winning in mind, that is a must. So, well, guys, we've had a good run and conversation here. You want to say good night for the evening and wrap this show up and push the button to get it out to the masses?
Yeah, let's do it, guys. This is a great evening.
All right. We'll be in touch soon, and let us know how your carbine work's going, man.
Take care, guys.
See ya.